So we're going to be looking about selective mutism and how to support teachers to make any task easier and easier in order to promote communication on a child that has anxiety. So there are many situations that arises during the day. One of them is, for example, during registration time, where there is the expectation that children would say, "Here," or children would raise their hand, or children would look at the teacher. Or during carpet time, where children are all around and they are either discussing something that's happened during the weekend or something that a topic of conversation for the lesson. And what happens is I observe teachers almost feeling the anxiety for the child, and they either skip the child with selective mutism, so no question is asked, or the question is really, really hard and there is no other way other than there is no mean of communication. So I'm going to talk about those two things which happen all the time. So obviously we don't really know. Every child with selective mutism is slightly different. So we have those children that, they're happy to look and they're happy to nod, they're happy to raise their hands, but they are not yet comfortable in saying "here." But if we have a child that has, for example, is in a frozen stage, what we need to do is we need to look at the little steps. So when the child's name is called, the options could be like just the child looking at the teacher, but that can be anxiety provoking because it's eye contact. The child not looking at the teacher and raising their hand, that could be one thing, but also that some children feel really rigid about moving their body. The child shaking and nodding, so shaking in this case because they are there. Or actually something that everybody can do is to have maybe a little stick. So not just the child with selective mutism is different. And in that very repetitive task that you do every day, you need to look for something that maybe you change at a regular basis that everybody is doing. So for example, if you've got a group of children, like for the reading or for the maths or whatever group they're, they're part of, if you've got the blue group and the green group or the panda group or the giraffe groups, whatever group you have, you could have, for example, a little straw with a giraffe. So if they're part of that group, they raise that one up. But everybody's doing the same thing instead of saying "here." So then the child with selective mutism doesn't feel that he or she is slightly different. So those could be an option, as well as if the child is at a stage that uses somebody else as a bridge of communication, the child can tell for that step the friend that he or she is comfortable with "here," and then the child then would repeat it. So we have that bridge. So what happens at carpet time? At carpet time, or during discussion time or learning time, whatever it's called, we could, normally the teacher asks a question. And maybe the question is asked one after the other. And as I said before, there may be opting out to ask the child with selective mutism, and that's a big no-no, because otherwise that's a confirmation you are maintaining in your kind of saying, "I know it's hard, so I'm not going to give you the option," so that the child doesn't really know how to get on and do that, and then that becomes always anxiety provoking. So for example, if the teacher is asking everyone and saying, oh, I wonder if you can think of an animal that begins with W. And, everybody's thinking. And, some children with selective mutism would put their hands up, and then when they are called, they freeze. Sometimes they want to say it, but they won't say it because they are not at the stage that they volunteer, I know it. So, what can the teacher do? So if you know that the child knows, because you can see by their face, if you're going, they are at that stage, or they raise the hand but there is no communication, you have to then give them time. So repeat the question. Do you know an animal that begins with W? And you count to 5. And don't look at the child, but look away. And you repeat the question thinking, would it be a W? And you're looking away. So no answers comes back. And then you go, right, okay, let's see if maybe we can think of 2 options. Would that be a whale or a whirl? I don't know, you make up whatever, 2, I can't actually think on the top of my head of 2 animals that begins with W. I can think of a whale or a walrus, but they're both animals, so we have to kind of think of 2 things. But anyway, so you're giving them an oral option between 2 things. So you might hear walrus. Oh, that's right, thank you very much. That's what it was, everyone. It was a walrus. So the teacher is not actually saying, oh, well done, you use your voice, that's great. We're doing none of that at all, but you're giving the child a forced option. So the child doesn't have to think of it. Well, he's already thought of it, but it doesn't have to kind of come because they're not ready at that stage. Some children, they're not even ready at that stage. So you would go, right, okay, I wonder if you can help me with yes or no. Would that be a whirl? And the child might go, oh no, okay, it's not a whirl. Would that be a whale? Or would that be a walrus? Give them 2 or 3 options and maybe the child will go yes or no. And I'm going, so you have gone down to that step of yes and no. Now, if we don't get anything, that's still okay. And then what you do is, thank you so much. I know that the next time you can think about it and you can let us know. So you're moving on. Or if you have a child that is maybe in primary 2 or 3 and they can write it, the other option could also be, oh, I wonder if you can write it. But you as a teacher, you need to be aware that a child with selective mutism is not only scared of speaking, but is also scared of communicating in general, no matter what that communication looks like. That could be in writing, that could be speaking or whispering. So, but I want as teachers to think about that you've got several options. So do you have a good idea of where do the child's abilities to communicating lie? Where are they? Can the child communicate through someone else for the time being? Can the child, speak, in a quiet voice? Can the child shake or nod? So in the stages of confident speaking is really, really clear. So this is something that I'm also obviously exploring and analysing when I do the training, and we look very, very carefully, where does the child communication skills lie? Is it at level 0, at level 1, at the bridging stages? Because otherwise we don't know how to communicate and how to help the child moving on little steps. So I'd like to thank this parent and this teacher for asking for my advice. And I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions whatsoever, please just comment below and subscribe to my YouTube videos. Actually, I should say subscribe to my YouTube channel where I put new videos all the time. And yeah, if you've got any other requests, please do not hesitate. I wish you a really good day, and I look forward to catching up with you again for new videos and lots of new things. Bye bye just now.